What's good, everybody? It's your boy Tiger, and today I got another YT vid for you guys about my favorite MC, Rimuru Tempest. Today we're going to be talking about how he is the reincarnation of God himself, otherwise known as Vardhanava, the Star King Dragon. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, sit back and relax, and yeah, so first off, yes, I understand this sounds pretty damn crazy in the long run. Like, dude was a basic old slime that, you know, felt like enjoying his time on a different planet, and as you can tell, a lot of things happened, and I've noticed that a lot of these things get looked over, and a lot of the feats or just certain statements that keep on being referred to as Vardhanava, even though those statements are very vague. So let me just talk about one of my first times I really came up with this theory. So back in Light Novel 15, after Rimuru puts the smackdown on Vardhanava, and Valdora and Valgrind, and at the end of it, we know that Rimuru wins, obviously, and he basically alters the abilities of Valgrind so she wouldn't be controlled by Fidwell and Michael. During this process, near the end of it, Valgrind makes this statement. She makes a statement saying, "This is supposed to be impossible. There's no one that should be able to do this. The only person that was able to do this is," and obviously was referring to Vardhanava, also otherwise known as the god on most different dimensions. Another reason we can definitely make the argument that Rimuru is the reincarnation of Vardhanava is, for one, obviously we're able to reincarnate and not remember everything. For example, Rudra was probably one of the strongest guys in the verse, and when he reincarnated, his soul got split into 10,000 different pieces, and he obviously didn't know who he was. Even after all these pieces came together in, I believe, Light Novel 16 or 17, he still didn't remember who he was until Masayuki got a hero skill. And he was only able to remember who he was for a split second. So we know that we're able to reincarnate and not necessarily remember our past lives, and it wouldn't be a stretch to say that he reincarnated on a planet that was specifically about humans, right? We know he had a huge interest in just humanity alone. That's stated by Dino, right? And we know that Dino was placed on the planet just to be a watcher and see how humanity grows, meaning that we have this huge interest, right? Vardhanava has this huge interest. It would make sense for him to reincarnate and for him not to remember. Another thing that's really important is when Rimuru dies, right? Rimuru eventually dies and he reincarnates into the slime world or whatever. And when this happens, your soul is supposed to be I guess you can say remade in a way, but that never happened. Like, his soul was strong enough to withstand his soul being transferred to a whole another dimension, which isn't technically supposed to be possible, right? For example, like Rudra, like I said earlier, Rudra is one of the strongest characters, yet when he died, his soul came across. So he would at least need to be someone way stronger than Rudra from a long shot. And when you think about it, there's nobody like that besides maybe Avaraz, but Avaraz obviously didn't die yet, right? So the only people we really have is like Vardhanava, right? And it's been stated numerous times that Vardhanava will reincarnate eventually again, right? Dragons can technically not die, right? They're just pure energy, so they will eventually just reincarnate. And it's stated numerous times that, but why couldn't it just be he reincarnated but not as a dragon? There's no rule saying that he needs to reincarnate as a dragon. And I think that's another very interesting fact, because later on in Light Novel 19, if I'm not mistaken, we have the final showdown between Rimuru and Michael, and eventually Michael, you know, he takes the L, he loses, and if I'm not mistaken, he becomes part of Cell or slash Rimuru, and he makes a comment, this seems very familiar, this feels very familiar. And at the end of the day, we all know that he really just wanted to be back with his master. So why would this feel familiar? Like there's no reason for it to feel familiar unless like it was a part of Vardhanava, right? So once again, we have another vague comment that can be interpreted to be what's called Rimuru being Valdanava. And then I want to talk about is just his skills in general, right? I would say the most important skill that we need to talk about is the Great Sage / Raphael / Cell, right? And the important thing about this is in Light Novel 1, if you're someone that's watched the anime in dub, you probably noticed that the voice of the Ward and the Sage have two of the same voices. And I think this is very important, knowing that, for one, we do know it's been stated a while back that Valdanava did create the skills, the angelic skills, and he did create the Ward voice. So for one, and we do know that the skills were basically, some of the skills were degraded, made into unique skills, and then put into Reincarnation, right? But those skills still need to find their own master, right? So at the end of the day, what tells us that the skill didn't just go to its original owner, which would be Valdanava himself, right? Because the skills never appeared once again until Rimuru pulled up, right? And that would make sense if Rimuru himself was literally just the past of Valdanava, right? His soul technically wouldn't change, but we do know that if he would be reincarnated, he could technically remove his memories and whatnot, knowing that he did remove his omnipotence, which is basically means that you're able to see all, you can tell what's going to happen, and basically his sight in general, right? He can basically take away his own abilities, and this is something he's decided before on. So once again, wouldn't be a stretch to say, you know, he became a human, no memories. Only thing that we would know is that he would have, his soul would be really strong, which makes sense, knowing that Valdanava makes a statement that technically that's never happened before back in episode 1 / Light Novel 1, right? No one technically just remains 100% if those soul gets crossed over, unless there was someone that got summoned, you know, into their own body, which is obviously not the case for Rimuru, right? So we have multiple skills, right? And one of the skills we have is the angelic skills, and we know about the thing about the angelic skills is there's 14 of them, and they were all created by Valdanava. And we eventually know that Rimuru eventually gets all of the angelic skills in the web novel and in the light novel. So all these skills eventually come back. We know that Rimuru eventually becomes a dragon, and his DNA is similar to a dragon, and he already has 2 of the dragon factors, so it wouldn't be a stretch to say that he eventually gets Velzard or Malims, and he evolves once more. So, you know, his body is already becoming a dragon, he's getting all the skills. You have multiple statements implying that he has some sort of connection with Valdanava. Like, it's something I don't really think anyone can really ignore at this point. And for me, I think the only problem I think would be with this is that it'd be kind of weird for his character, for Rimuru, just to become a god at the end of it. No, he was, at the end of the day, he was just a chill guy wanting to live a good life, right? He didn't mean to become a king, right? It's just like he wouldn't mean to become a god once again, right? So there's a lot of things in the series that can very much imply that he has some sort of connection, right? Another reason you can bring up is even Diablo. Diablo makes this statement saying that, I believe that Rimuru will be the one to tell me the truth about this world. Why would Rimuru be the one to know the truth about this world? Rimuru doesn't even know anything about the world, bro. Like, he just entered it. Well, Diablo has all thousands of years of knowing about the dimensions and yada yada yada. So what about Rimuru makes him think he knows anything about the world? Unless there was some sort of thing he felt, unless he has some sort of skill that we don't know about. And even in that case, I don't think that's likely, knowing that I'm pretty sure Raphael knows everybody's skills. So, but main point, even Diablo has this vague feeling that he does, right? And, you know, that's another, you can interpret that in your own way, but the way I interpret that is that it has some sort of connection with Valdanava, knowing that he did create all the dimensions, the space, time, and everything at the end of the day, right? So there's a lot of connections I see with Rimuru and Valdanava, which I don't really think you can just disagree at some point. Another thing you can bring up is back when he was a human, he had black hair, blue eyes. These are features that would describe Vadanova has, which would be kind of a coincidence to be kind of a coincidence, but you can still definitely argue that it isn't a coincidence that he had black hair and blue eyes, features that Vadanova was described to have, right? So, and plus we know that UL is also a skill that was what's it called? UL was a skill that Vadanova had before Rimuru. Well, eventually got transferred to Rudra, but then eventually came back to Rimuru, right? So we can also make arguments saying that like eventually this returned to its own owner. I just think there's a lot of components between Vadanova and Rimuru that at some point I don't really think you can say it's a coincidence, right? And I don't really think it's that much of a stretch to have, you know, Rimuru become some sort of god at the end of the series. I do think it would just be kind of weird between him and Maline, because me personally, I really do enjoy the relationship. But in the long terms of things, I just at this point in time, I just don't think we can really ignore all these statements, these very vague statements that can be interpreted to be Vadanova, and that would mean that Vadanova and Rimuru has some sort of connection. And at this point in time, we're 20 light novels in, and I don't think anyone can really ignore that at this point in time. That's just my thoughts on it. If you guys disagree, or you know, just want to know what you think about my theory, you know, write it down in the comments. And yeah, see you guys later.